Governor J.B. Pritzker signing Sonya Massey's law, a measure that requires police agencies with prospective recruit to actually go out and get the full employment history of that applicant. And that's pretty much it. Doesn't require that they block certain applicants with certain backgrounds or, being dismissed from different agencies and whatnot, but just merely gives that level of accountability. Where does all this come from? Well, it is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. You can wake up with us each and every weekday morning here live with the Center Square on YouTube. But tragic story. A young woman in Springfield, Illinois, calls police for a suspected prowler. 2 sheriff's deputies show up. It's early in the morning, and it ends with the 2 sheriff's deputies walking out after one of them ended up pulling their firearm and shooting Sonya Massey, killing her. That law enforcement officer no longer in that capacity and is instead facing murder charges and being held in jail pending trial. Sean Grayson is his name, and he obviously is a major focus of this story because of his employment history that was brought out. And you have this all culminating in legislation that passed during spring session at the State House and Governor J.B. Pritzker signed yesterday, called Sonya Massey's bill. And it essentially says that a law enforcement agency that has a potential applicant to become a law enforcement officer, that law enforcement agency needs to go and get the full employment history of that prospect before a job offer can be made. And again, that's because Sean Grayson apparently had a very checkered past. Let's hear from State Senator Doris Turner for Springfield. She says that this wasn't just something impacting her constituents in Springfield, but the Massey family are very close friends of Senator Doris Turner.
Today is a very emotional day for me for a lot of different reasons. And I would tell you unequivocally, in my 25 years of elected office, this is the least political thing I have ever done, but it's the most important thing I have ever done.
So Turner talking about how this isn't political, and I think that when you see the votes on this bill, you'll see that it's passed overwhelmingly. There were some that voted against it. For instance, in the Illinois House, you had some law enforcement officers who are state representatives voting against it. One of them told me yesterday that they felt it was redundant because law enforcement agencies already do this. But again, it gets to a certain question we'll hear State Senator Doris Turner address as, does this actually prohibit certain people from being hired? Or is it merely just, here's some more paperwork that the police agency has to do to get that full employment history, and that's it? It doesn't say that if so-and-so is bounced around from law enforcement agency to law enforcement agency 6 times in 5 years, you can't hire them. No, it just merely says you have to get the full employment history. Let's let Senator Turner explain that.
I believe that Senate Bill 1953 goes a long way to prevent individuals with backgrounds such as Sean Grayson's from ever becoming associated with law enforcement. It requires law enforcement agencies to conduct a more comprehensive review of a prospective officer's past employment to ensure his or her physical and psychological fitness for duty as a police officer before making an offer of employment. If that would have happened with Sean Grayson, Sonya would still be here with us today. Additionally, to ensure the highest degree of integrity and professionalism in the hiring processes of sheriff's deputies and other personnel, the legislation expands the creation of sheriff's merits boards and sheriff's merit commissions for counties with a population of at least 75,000.
So Turner talked about the bill, the various components of it before the governor signed it, and Sonya Massey's mother, Donna, also addressed the gathering press there in the governor's ceremonial office.
I just wanted to say thank you to Governor Pritzker, Senator Doris Turner, Ben Crump, all the lawyers and the support and everybody in this room, actually. Thank you for your support, and God bless you.
And, Turner said that the family didn't care about money. They didn't care about, attention. They just wanted justice for their daughter. And again, Sean Grayson, he's facing murder and other charges, and that trial is going to be a lot of national headlines. I think the media is trying to get cameras in the courtroom there, but clearly it's something that is going to garner a lot of attention. Sonya's son, Malachi, also there yesterday, addressing the members of the press.
I just want to say that I miss my mom every single day, like every day. And it hurts that she's not here with me, but I am very happy that we can also get a bill put in her name, and her name can live on for forever, like ever.
You got to think just the tragic circumstances that family's undergone, and then compounding on top of that, the incredible national attention on this story. But one of the questions that I had to ask was, does this do anything further than just request and require that prospective law enforcement officers hand over their full employment history so that it could be reviewed thoroughly? Is that it, or can they go and, is the law saying, hey, you cannot hire this person?
And this is a really good question. Leader Buckner had it before, and I will echo what he said at that time. We can't tell people who to hire and who not to hire. We can provide them with all of the relevant information, and if they choose to go outside of that, we can't dictate that. Yes, exactly. Because a big part of this legislation is accountability, for its law enforcement being accountable for the officers that they put out on the streets to do that policing. If you look back, and not to prolong things, but if you look back at what was uncovered in Sean Grayson's history, he was at, I believe, 6 agencies within 5 years. He should have been fired from the very first one and put on a do not hire list. But it was one of those things where I believe they were just trying to get rid of him and move him along to the next place so he would be someone else's problem.
And again, Grayson was hired by Sangamon County Sheriff Jack Campbell. Once the employment history was reported out of Grayson, the pressure on Campbell to resign, to retire, just mounted. I think last year, a lot of the questions Governor J.B. Pritzker was being asked around the state fair time was, should Sheriff Campbell retire? Should he step down? And Pritzker said yes, he should. And he really got involved in that. And ultimately, Campbell retired in the aftermath of all of the questions about Sean Grayson's hiring, despite having a checkered past. Here is some of the debate that happened on the House floor before Sonya Massey's law passed, and this comes from Dennis Tipsword. He's a state representative, but also a member of law enforcement, and he said that there's some things within this law that might be seen as kind of loopholes. Number one, the one we addressed, obviously, about this doesn't require a police agency to not hire somebody. It just merely says get that employment history. But what about if the employment history takes too much time to get, especially from like a private agency where somebody may have worked in the past, and it's 2 months before they can get their actual employment history from that place for whatever reason? Does that mean that law enforcement are going to have the inability to hire somebody in a timely fashion?
Leader, I appreciate your work on this. I know what you were trying to do. I don't know that this language gets you there, and I have some concerns with that. I was a no in committee, and I'm probably still going to be a no. I'd love to talk to you more about it, for other things we can do, but as it is, I still have some reservations. I see in the bill that there's an avenue for the hiring agency to file in court to get those records, But I still have a problem, just like we do now, if someone doesn't comply, at what point in time, we may have a good applicant, we may have a good candidate, but if one private agency or one law enforcement agency doesn't get back to us, that person doesn't get in the door. So I'm concerned about that.
Tipsword obviously raising those concerns, and plenty of other concerns raised as well about, say, for instance, police morale. That's something else that you got to take into the equation here. We always hear about the so-called teacher shortage. Well, what about the law enforcement shortage? What about getting people to become law enforcement officers if there are just tons of regulations and red tape, and then you get in there and there's even more regulations and red tape, and then you get the no cash bail elements, you get the other safety act elements, you get the state's migrant sanctuary policies that don't allow for law enforcement officers to even inquire about somebody's immigration status or allow for law enforcement to communicate that to ICE. I mean, all those things compound into how a police officer is able to conduct their job, impacting morale, and how do you address that? Again, tragic circumstance with Sonya Massey's murder, and the family's going to be dealing with this for a long time, but there's tons of other questions as well about public safety, and how do you balance accountability with the need to have officers conducting public safety. Finally, there's going to be more about this, not just this particular law that was signed yesterday, but there's other things that stakeholders with the Sonya Massey story are really pushing for. For instance, the ability to recall local elected officials, certain local elected officials, if there's something like this that happens again, like a sheriff, for instance, right? Should the community be able to do like an emergency recall of a sheriff? And then that opens a can of worms. Should you open up recall to all different types of elected offices? Everything from, the state representative to the Speaker of the House, for instance. So, again, a lot of different things that the Sonya Massey Commission, a group of local stakeholders, are pushing and putting together as recommendations. Doris Turner saying that they're fully anticipating more recommendations with a one-year report coming out very soon.
Mid-October, because their work will conclude that first year in September. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what their recommendations are, and then doing everything that I can to put together the advocates, stakeholders, legislators.
And get that report and look at what's up. Maybe you'll see some more legislation involved of how to react and how to regulate and so on. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to wake up with us here with Illinois in Focus Daily and the Center Square, only on YouTube.